Evan, and I'm going to be teaching you how to use an SD card module today with your Arduino. So a couple of important things to note is you should format your SD card in the FAT32 or exFAT file system type. Don't use NTFS or APFS. Those are proprietary for Microsoft and Apple, and so your Arduino can't interface with that. Use an open source standard. Second, make sure that your card and your board actually work, right? These aren't the highest fidelity electronics, and SD cards are prone to being corrupted and breaking. So, make sure you can interface with your SD card via your laptop, and just make sure that your board is working. If you find any problems, it's always okay to just swap for another board. Next thing is, ensure the proper wiring. The data pins for the SPI interface can be a little bit fragile, so just make sure that you're completely plugged in and you have a good connection. And then lastly, use the designated SPI pins on your board. Now, what does that mean? So if you look at your micro SD card adapter, you'll see it probably has 6 pins, right? Voltage and ground, those are just whatever your voltage is in your ground. Sometimes it'll be 5 volts, sometimes it'll be 3.3 volts. Just make sure you're using the right one. And the other 4 pins are your SPI pins. That stands for serial peripheral interface. Those are the 4 pins that help bridge between your Arduino and your SD card adapter. MOSI and MISO are data pins, SCK is a clock line, and then CS stands for chip select. It just helps determine which serial device you're interfacing with at once, at that time. So you got to make sure that you're using the correct pins. This is an ESP32 pinout. When you're using an Arduino, just pull one of these up for whatever board you're using and make sure that you're using the correct pins. So for example, if I wanted to wire an SD card module to this, I would make sure to use this CS pin here, right? That's the default one, and that's how you should interface the clock, like the chip select. Same for here. This is SCK. You just match the pins up. This is MISO. This is MOSI. And now if you look at an Arduino Nano, like I said, they're not always in the same place. So now the clock is here, the MISO is here, and the MOSI is here. Now, this you can see is SS versus the previous, which is CS. They're interchangeable just to say chip select. And so you just need to wire to all of these pins. I'm now going to show you the code. This is for an ESP32, but the interfaces and APIs for, say, an Arduino Nano would work very, very similarly. There's just some fine adjustments that you might have to make. The first thing is you should include these 3 libraries for file system, SD card, and your SPI, and then declare some global file variables. So the first thing is we're going to go to initialize the SD card. All you need to do really is just do this sd.begin on the SS pin, right? That's your chip select pin, and either it works or it doesn't. The next thing is you're going to, you can look at something like the SD card info, right? This is all just computing the size of the SD card. I'm using card size as well as just 1024 and 1000 for, say, determining the size of it. The next thing is I'm going to show you how to print out and read files in the directory. So once I've loaded in this root of the SD card by calling sd.open, I'm just iteratively and recursively looking through every single file and just printing out some information about it, right? Things like, is this a directory? When was the last time it was written to it? What's the size of it, etc. And then once I'm done looking at a file or directory, you should call root.close. You should only really have one file pointer open at a time, otherwise you're going to run into some problems. Now, to look at how to write to a file, you should first look at the file you want. In this case, I'm going to make this file, right, called testfile1.txt, and I'm going to open that using sd.open with the file write flag. And this true says to the SD card, create this file if it doesn't already exist. I'm going to ensure that I have found the file, right, just checking that this is null. And then once I'm doing that, I'm just calling this testfile.println in my loop over and over again with the millis command, using sprintf to create a formatted string. And once I do that, it's just simple as that, and you're starting to write files to the SD card. Whenever you're done, you should again call your testfile.close.